16th birthday is today. We are always happy. Every time he has a birthday, always is perfect to welcome in from Utah. She's still in Utah.
Yeah.
Which means she got some sleep. So not sleepy Katie. It's awake Katie joining us right now. Kayte Christensen, the color commentator for your Sacramento Kings, joining myself and Jason Ross. Good morning, Katie.
Good morning, fellas. How are we this morning?
Great. How are you?
Good. Happy birthday, Mason.
He's not here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's at school right now. He can't hear you.
Sometimes I just really despise you.
Well, I despise losing. And the Sacramento Kings started out 0-2. They're now 2-2. Katie, will the Kings lose again?
I would be willing to say that it's likely to happen this season, yeah.
How much of the difference in the last two games is the Kings are putting it together, and how much is they're playing crappy teams?
It's a combination. I mean, it is. But, I think that regardless of who you're playing, you can get a really good feel for each other. And I think Mike Brown is getting a good feel for this team and kind of how to put them in positions. He told us pregame yesterday that prior to the game against the Blazers on Friday, he switched up their offense. He calls it, they run what he calls a flow offense. And he switched it up after the first two games and kind of threw it at them. Obviously, same principles. It's not a brand new offense, but it's like what they mainly run. And you could tell the difference against Portland in a third quarter. And I asked him specifically about the third quarter and the variety of offense that they had, meaning that so many different guys scored in that third quarter. And I felt they were pretty heavy. I know they're trying to work DeMar in, and DeMar's obviously got this amazing mid-range game, and he can post people up. And the great thing about having him alongside Domas and De'Aaron is they're not able to double team everybody. So everyone's getting a lot of solo coverage. And, the positives to that is he can get to the free throw line anytime. He can go and get buckets. But what I saw in the first two games is that it kind of slowed down their offense. And now we're starting to see them click. We saw them run versus the Lakers, which was great. But their offense in the third quarter, both of these last two games, was really, really promising to me.
Katie, you brought it up. You just mentioned it there, but you brought it up in the broadcast last night that one of the guys that was getting one-on-one coverage last night was Sabonis. And,
yeah.
I mean, he just was working them. I mean, Sabonis doesn't see that a lot. If he continues, and a lot of these guys continue to get one-on-one coverage, I think their offense is going to be just fine.
Yeah, I have no hesitation at all to say that their offense is going to be fine. They're really going to start, clicking, figuring each other out. And it's also a combination of how he figures out the coaching staff as a whole, the substitution patterns. And I thought Keon played well the last two games after not playing in that second game against the Lakers. And there's so many things to put together right now. And, we started 0-4 last season, or was it the season before? I'm trying to remember. And that's when Domantas Sabonis went to Mike and was like, hey, I think, can we put the ball in my hands a little bit more as a facilitator? And this is to credit Mike Brown. He listens to his players so much. He takes input so well. Not all coaches are that way. And that's where we really started to see this team develop. And, I think that when you look at, the addition of DeMar, what it really does is, De'Aaron's getting a lot more single coverage. Domas is getting single coverage. You can't double team three different people of the five on the floor, especially when you have Keegan Murray and Kevin Huerter who can shoot the ball well, so it's really starting to open up, and they're starting to figure some things out. And I've been, pleasantly surprised by some defense as well. And I think that's going to continue to improve. And we saw it improve last season. And I think they're just overall, both ends of the floor, they're trending in the right direction.
Kayte Christensen joining us. Not sure if, I know you travel with the team, and I know injuries are sometimes something as Bogdan Bogdanovic will tell you, sometimes injuries are things that they are a little bit sensitive about. But De'Aaron Fox said to Gary Gerald last night, we just played the audio a couple segments ago, that he's got his fingers on a shooting hand, two of his fingers taped together. And at one point said, unless we get a month off, it is on my dominant hand. Unless we get a month off, this is pretty much going to stick with me all year. Now, we took a quick look after 4 games at his shooting percentages, and he's in the 90s in free throw, which is fantastic. Maybe a point down, a couple points down in field goal and 3-point. It doesn't really look like anything crazy, but how much of a concern is that for you? The fact that is on his dominant hand, and it sounds like he's saying he did it in training camp, and that's going to linger all year for him.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, he started the season off with that. Like his fingers have been taped together on his left hand. It's his pinky finger and his ring finger. It's been that way since training camp. I'm personally not concerned because they're not my fingers, Dave. But, I think the reality in the league is, and in every professional sports league, I mean, even the NFL, they don't start the year off healthy at all. And it just kind of continues that way as the year goes on. And, having played, there's so many things that happen to your hands. I mean, look at Domas's thumb that he played with broken for an entire, season. I think you just become accustomed to it. It's sore. It bothers you. Does it affect you a little? Yeah, I don't think it's going to affect De'Aaron to the point where he's, scoring 10 points a game and shooting 25% from the field. It's something that's going to linger for him, and that's just kind of the reality of how it is, unfortunately.
Kayte, I want to talk to you. You touched on him a little bit earlier, but talking about DeMar DeRozan, we're all getting to learn his game more and more by the game. For me, just watching, there's such a calmness to him. I love he's done it a couple times in the preseason, already done it in the regular season, where late in a half or late in a shot clock, where it's kind of everybody's sped up and there's a nature of like a little bit of a quick panic. And he just calms it down, slows it down, will measure and get the shot off and make it comfortably. I've been impressed by his overall game. I'd be curious about your perspective on what you've seen from him so far.
He's unflappable. And there's a smoothness, and you're right, it's a calmness. And I kind of mentioned it last night on the broadcast. Nothing seems to rattle him at all. And he's been in the league for so long. And listen, we're all familiar with DeMar DeRozan. I mean, you'd have to be under a rock for the last 16 years not to be. But there's a difference playing against somebody like a couple times a year to where you're seeing him night in and night out. And I've been so pleasantly surprised by just every component of his game. It's like it's a major luxury to have somebody like that because he's a veteran. He's seen it all. He's seen every bit of coverage, and just his demeanor to me is like, wow, you can't speed him up. He never looks to get rattled, and it's just he has such a tremendous feel for the game. He knows when they need a free throw. He knows when they need to get a bucket, and he's an unselfish player on top of that, which you have to be really to fit into this offense. But just his feel for the game, and he's just so freaking smooth. It's like it's been a pleasure to watch him here early on, and to me, it's like I don't think anyone really knew what it was going to be like when he came. Everyone, I think, genuinely excited. But as the season goes on, I think we're going to all have a greater appreciation for him.
Kayte Christensen joining us. Dyson Daniels sat out yesterday with a hip flexor strain, and his status is still up in the air. But this is a guy who's 21, 28 deflections so far. That's first in the NBA. 11 steals, first in the NBA. 4 blocks, which is third amongst guards. And I would imagine, I don't know this for sure, but I would imagine that they put Daniels on Fox, which would mean Trae Young is then guarding Huerter. I don't know how that works, but either way, watching that offensive-defensive matchup, whether it's full-time or not, you got to think Fox and Daniels, if that does happen, is going to be one of those incredible young guard matchups to look at.
Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting, like to see who they choose to put on who, right? Because here's one thing about De'Aaron, like, guys, I went to practice, right before the start of the game against Minnesota, and I've seen De'Aaron practice a million times, and everybody is different in practice, right? There are guys that just kind of go through the motions, and then there's guys that go full blown. I was one of those people that when I played, like, I was like the MVP of practice because I couldn't not play like all out all the time.
Did that piss people off?
It did. Yeah, it did. Well, it did and it didn't. It didn't because a lot of games and stuff in practice is competitive. So you always want that person on your team because you're probably not going to end up running, if that makes sense. But also it can be frustrating because it's like they just kind of want to go through the motions, get a run in, that type of thing. But like De'Aaron, you know, he goes through his like pregame or like the, you know, your warm up in practice. And then you go through all these 5-on-0 drills and, you know, he's just kind of like out there and he's just kind of doing his thing. And then the moment that scrimmage starts, I mean, he just freaking cooks people all over the place. I mean, everyone you throw at it, I mean, his speed, we see it all the time in games, but like when you just see it in a practice setting, it's mind-boggling. It's just so impressive. So I think it's like, yeah, you look at who are they going to put on De'Aaron, and yeah, they're probably going to put their best defender. I mean, because I think that if they chose Trae Young, that's just brutal for him. I mean, that's just it doesn't make any sense. He's not going to guard him well. It's going to take a lot out of him. And that's going to affect his offensive end of the floor. But the great thing about De'Aaron, and we've seen it in the past, is he does a really good job of figuring out how he's being defended. He might like say for the first quarter or the first half, maybe he's got 6-8 points, right, going in at halftime. But when he comes out at halftime, it's like he's figured out what he needs to do to just, you know, absolutely demolish the defender and figure out how, you know, you can use their strengths against them. And so I'm excited for the matchup against, you know, McDaniels, because it's like one of those things like, I love defenders. I absolutely love guys that is their calling card, but great offense. You can be a tremendous defender and it's still, it's not in your favor, if you know what I mean.
Kayte, the other day, Kevin Huerter had said, you know, just getting started here, these games are kind of his preseason. So, I mean, he's played 4 games, and I think he's getting better and better by the game, really active, trying his best there on the defensive end. And then offensively, he's just starting to look really comfortable. He's coming off of significant surgery and not a lot of playing time. I think the beginning of his season has actually looked pretty good.
Oh, my gosh. I'm so pleasantly like surprised by it because he's right. It's really, really tough to not have a training camp. And as a shooter, especially because you're shooting a 3-point shot in particular, it's all about like being in a rhythm and a flow. And last year he struggled. And I mentioned it last night. I mean, he shot 36% from beyond the arc last year after shooting over 40 the year before. 36% is a career low for him in a season. And I'm sitting here going like, my God, do you know how many people would kill for 36% from beyond the arc? And that's his like career low. But what I noticed last year is I felt like he had a hitch in his shot, like a hesitation in his release last year. I've been paying close attention to him for that reason. And obviously there's a mental component coming off of an injury as well. And he just looks so comfortable and so confident in his shot. There's no hesitation. There's no hitch. His release is so soft, like, you know, and Doug McDermott is the same way. I mean, if you guys ever, you know, have a chance to be there before a game and watch their individual warm-ups, it's really mesmerizing to watch great shooters in their release and how soft their hand is when they follow through. And Kevin's shot has looked so good. And his confidence, you can tell right now, is really high. And to me, last year, that's what it was. He struggled for a segment early on in the season. And then I think it just really impacted his confidence because let's be honest, I listen to your guys' show. I listen to the people that call in. I see it on social media. It's like he gets cooked a lot by people about, oh, you shouldn't be in the starting lineup and we need somebody else and this and that. Like these people are not immune from the words and the chatter around them. And I think that, he's gotten a really strong, solid start, minus that first game, which, again, like you said, Jason, that was like his first preseason game.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta be able to kind of have the ability to work yourself in, and more particularly, it's about your wins, right? It's it's playing games is the only way that you can get in that game shape. And as a shooter, when you don't have your legs and you're tired and you're winded, it affects your shot. And so he looks really, really comfortable, looks really confident. And I've been really, really impressed by his defense as well. He going into last night's game, he was second on the team in deflections, one behind De'Aaron. And if you look back to last year, he was second on the team in deflections last year as well. But where I've noticed a difference in his defense is how he's getting into the gaps, how he's coming off of his man and recovering, and a lot of the chase downs. So where he's following someone else, like say De'Aaron's guy gets down the lane and goes to, trying to get to the rim, and it's the chase down. It's coming from behind to also defend and make that shot difficult. He's doing a really, really good job in the team defensive concept. He's never going to be a lockdown defender. That's not who he is. That's not his skill set. But he's so long and has the ability to impact with his length and his height that I think he's really using that to his advantage, kind of in the team defensive concepts right now.
Kayte Christensen joining us. And don't forget, a couple days off, and then the Kevin Huerter revenge game in Atlanta, 4:30, right here on Sactown Sports. We love Kevin, and he was our guest weekly, and we had a chance to have an extended sit down with him at training camp, and he very much was open about how he feels like he owes the team and owes the fans. He's been very frustrated, and he's been working very hard. And Kayte, it's a small sample size, but through 4 games, he is averaging a career high from the field at 56%, from behind the arc, 41.7, also another career high. And you mentioned the defense. He got our game ball from the Portland game. He just looks like, it's like you said, he's never going to be a lockdown defender, but his defensive effort and the way he is cutting and the way, as you said, he's getting into the lanes, it's really night and day. And we gave credit to Mike Brown, and obviously Doug Christie, is involved in that, as well as the rest of the staff, Luke Laux. But Kevin if this is sustainable, and he's maybe not the 55%, but if it's sustainable for him on both ends of the floor, that opens up a ton of things for Sacramento.
Yeah, it does. And look, this is also partially due to the addition of DeMar DeRozan, right? Like, it changes expectations for everybody. And it also changes defensive matchups for everybody and who they're going against and the type of looks that they get. And so sometimes just having that little bit of pressure, even though it might be self-imposed pressure, like having that alleviated just makes you play a little bit freer. And, it's the same thing. Like, I look at Trey Lyles. You guys talk about Kevin's defense, right? Trey Lyles is never going to be a lockdown defender. It's not going to happen. It's not his skill set, and it's not his physical skill set either. But he's like the best team defender on this team. He is so good at drawing charges. He's always in the right spot. Like, listen, the key at this level, and especially kind of as role players on teams, is to figure out where you can make the biggest impact, or the job that a lot of people don't want to do, right? And defense is one of them. Keon Ellis has figured out the same thing. We talked about it last night as well. Like, when he was in college, he hated defense. But he got to the league, and he's in the G League with Bobby Jackson, and he figured out, like, I got to do this because not everyone wants to do this. And this is my key to playing time. This is my key to increasing my value. And so, defensively as a whole, it's not like the Kings have a bunch of players like the Pelicans or the Timberwolves, like individual defenders that are high level defenders, right? But if you can have everyone on the same page in the right position at the right time and where they're supposed to be, it doesn't matter if you're a top-rated defender or not. It just because if you're in the right spot at the right time and you're playing within the team concepts, the game scout, the individual personnel, like that's all you can ask for in this league. And you're going to have success more times than not because of it.
Kayte, you've been around a long time on this, and you've had all sorts of road trips. An Atlanta to Toronto back-to-back, that seems about as bad as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember when I feel like I haven't had a free night in Toronto for what seems like a long time. I think last year we might have come the day before and didn't have a game, but we got in late. I'm trying to remember. It's brutal because it's an interesting trip into Canada. You fly in, you go through customs. It's like an hour ride to, from the airport to downtown. And then you turn around and you leave. I don't think we're there for even 24 hours. It's wild. So this is a really tough back-to-back. But this trip all the way around is really odd, you guys, because we're still in Utah. It's not normal for us to stay after a game. And there's 2 days between now and, playing Atlanta. Having 2 days off is bizarre. And then we go from Toronto down to Miami. We play Miami and we stay the night in Miami before we come home. Also a really weird thing. Yes, it's like a 6-hour flight and we would get in super late, maybe 3 or 4 in the morning if we came home. But we're staying the night and we're going to get back in the afternoon the day after that game. All of this trip is kind of weird when you look at it. But I think when you look at us staying the night a couple times, they're really putting the players in positions, you guys, where they can have some actual decent rest, if that makes sense. Where you're not sleeping on a plane, getting home at 4 a.m, and then it just kind of disrupts you. And to do that early in the season, I think there's a method to the madness here early on, despite the schedule being wonky.
Got back from Europe 7:30 Sunday night, up at 3:30 doing the show. So don't know about all that, Kayte.
Yeah, Dave, I wonder what that feels like.
I'm just saying it's not,
He's saying he's heroic.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's fine. Got to do a show. Have to have the brain working. You guys are just flying on private planes.
Oh my God!
Staying in 5-star hotels.
You're just
What did I have? Hey, is Keon Ellis who we thought Davion Mitchell would be?
Yeah, I think that's a good poll. Keon obviously has more offensive kind of potential than Davion. And I was really excited for Davion because he puts in so much work. But I think it was more of a mental stunt with him offensively than anything else. There was times where he would shoot the ball and shoot it well, but Keon just, from a systematic standpoint and a mentality standpoint, I think he fits better in this offense, and he has the potential to be a really, really, really strong defender. He's really fast. He's hard-nosed on that end. Davion is a brilliant defender. He's also undersized. So that's, at this level, you've got to see if you can make up for that. And he just, wasn't and look, I love Davion. I think part of it too was just opportunity for him. Right.
Yeah.
And based on the rosters and the coaching and all those things, that opportunity never really truly presented itself for Davion, but it'll be good to see him and kind of what his opportunity looks like in Toronto.
All right. We got a break. Listeners asking for a favor. We have a texter that's in the chat every single day. His name's MC. He served our country with honor, and he generally pisses me off, but he's a good guy. He every time you come on, basically slobbers all over the chat because he is infatuated with you and how good you are at your job. Huge fan. Let's just say that.
Well, thank you.
And he asked me if I could ask you, I'm assuming this is for a friend of his, to say hi, Cal, and I guess he'll clip it up and give it to the friend. So would you mind saying hi, Cal?
Hey, Cal.
I said hi, Cal.
Should I do it in a variety of ways so he can pick his taste?
All right, let's try. Okay, yeah, let's do a couple different ones. All right, so I'll count you down in 3, 2, 1.
Hi, Cal.
Okay.
Hey, Cal.
Oh, I'm sorry, I stepped on it.
Cal. You're talking all over.
I thought I was counting you down. I thought I was counting you down. All right.
No, yeah, I don't need a countdown every time. What is this? Elementary school?
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Hey, Cal. Hi, Cal. Hey there, Cal. There's 3 options for it.
Sound like you're calling a cat. Hey, Cal. Come here, Cal.
Hey, Cal.
All right. Have a great.
Well, Cal's had a great day.
Cal's had a one.
Yeah.
Cal's the chat MVP today.
Yes.
Have a wonderful flight to Atlanta on that jalopy of a plane you guys use. I hope you guys are okay. And we'll talk to you next week. Thank you.
You are part of the problem. You realize that, right?
100% of the problem, as usual.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right.
I'll tell Mason you said happy birthday.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's Kayte Christensen.
Hi, Cal.
Hey, Cal. Hi, Cal.
Hey there, Cal.
Hey, go see Cal.
Yes.
Hi.
Will we get clipped up?
Well, yeah. Is
mean,
that?
I
Did he use that?
Or does MC just want it from Kate?
Don't even know if Cal is a guy, a gal.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Cal.
Howdy, Cal.
Hey, Cal. Hello. Oi, Cal. We're idiots. When we come back, mostly me.
Howdy, ho.
Hey, Cal.